Hola, I'm Joe Pardavila, and this is the Forbes Books Podcast. And today I'm speaking with an exceptional entrepreneur and philanthropist, Trevor Farnes. Trevor is the CEO and co-founder of MTN OPS, a company that aims to empower individuals and families through transformative products and inspiring community. Now, what sets Trevor apart is his unwavering dedication to making a positive impact in the world. After facing hunger issues himself, Trevor and his wife Jenna founded Operation Conquer Hunger, an initiative that provides meals to vulnerable households. We're going to delve into Trevor's incredible journey and learn how his passion for helping others drives him to achieve greatness. Trevor, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joe. Really appreciate it.
Trevor, folks know that I try to keep things upbeat around here, but we have to start on a bit of a downer because I learned about your company when a video of you talking about your struggles with hunger popped up on my feed. And I'm going to add it to the show notes, but do you mind sharing that story with us right now?
Yeah, for sure. No, I those were definitely tough times, but as we've gone through them, I've found that every pain has a purpose, and we tried to see that as such as we went through it. I've been married to my wife. It'll next week be 20 years. We've got four beautiful children, and back in 2003, we got married. 2004, we started our family, having our first child, and then. And things were going really well. At that point, my roles and responsibilities in life had changed, and they changed drastically. You know, being a husband now and a father, and we were very young. My wife was 18, I was 21 when we got married, and that's sometimes the way you do things here in Utah. But it's worked out, and with those new responsibilities, I was to provide, preside, and protect in my home, and I felt like I was doing pretty good for a few years there. I was selling pharmaceuticals. My commission was great. I was building up great relationships within the pharmaceutical industry, working for my brothers. But the ultimate goal was always to go out and try our wings and to start our own business. We kind of had an entrepreneurial environment in our house, and I, following in the footsteps of brothers who had been entrepreneurs and seen success, and so that was the goal for us. And we had ultimately saved up enough to where we felt like we could go off on our own in 2007. And we found a few opportunities. A couple were within real estate, and then one was within a retail franchise. And at the time, being young and naive, I didn't quite understand cash flow, and didn't wasn't super patient. I wanted things to happen quickly, and so instead of buying one franchise, I bought seven. And so with that came 7 franchise fees. Building out the stores for 7 stores, signing personal guarantees, my wife and I, for the leases on those retail stores. And they were all down in Las Vegas. I lived here in Utah, but I was flying down there every week. And then I hired 7 friends to go down and run those stores for me. And upon them arriving down there to open up these retail stores, there was some struggles getting the stores open. There were some delays. And ultimately, the stores opened. We were excited to get some revenue finally coming through, but this is where the cash flow crunch started to happen, because I went too big too quick. 3 months after opening up those franchises, the franchise was shut down, and I won't get into the details of that, but it wasn't anything to do with what the franchisees were doing. It was on the franchise side. And so we were sitting there with the stores shut down, our contracts being kind of paused. And we, found ourselves in a very difficult situation, and had to wait. And they didn't know how long this process would go, and so there was no revenue coming in. And ultimately, I had to start winding down this company 3 months after we had opened up the doors, and that in and of itself took a period of time. It felt like a few years to just get everything wind down. And now we had come into 2008. We had our first real estate investments. The market was crashing all around us, and these landlords that we had signed personal guarantees with were not willing to budge. They weren't willing to work with us. They couldn't replace us in their locations. Wow. And so, they started putting liens on our home. It felt like we were getting served paperwork on a weekly basis. We stopped paying our mortgage. It was just everything we could do just to buy food for our family. And that was kind of the focus now. It was like, okay, what are the necessities? We'd now gone through all this savings that we'd saved up for about 5 years. And we were in a difficult situation. And, for some reason, they didn't kick us out of our home. We would get foreclosure and default letters all the time. And then we would see people taking photos of our home outside, ultimately to find out that our home was posted on an auction site, and that our home would be auctioned in the coming days. And And for some reason, time and time again, we just kept having these little miracles where somebody from the bank, and it was usually this sweet lady, and I just loved her voice. And she was like, I'm trying everything I can to get you guys, settled into keep you in your home, And after 2 years of not paying our mortgage, this lady called me one day and she's like, this is it. Like, it is going to go up for auction. And the next day she called and she's like, I don't know what's going on here, but if you can pay this modified rate and this modified payment, we're going to be able to keep you in your home. And it was, I mean, if I told you the amount, you'd be blown away, because it was like, yeah, we can afford that.
Wow.
And so we made that payment, and we continue to make that payment. And there was just time and time again, but throughout these experiences, and I tried other ventures, I tried other businesses, and it was always just transactional, because I was at a point now where I just needed revenue coming in to take care of my family, and it wasn't really anything I could sink my teeth into. And I'm a very passionate, mission-driven individual, and there wasn't a mission behind what I was going after. And so these transactional opportunities, I'd look to them, I'd try them, it wasn't working, and I'd try something else. And time and time again, we just had failure. And it felt like, man, maybe I wasn't meant to succeed in business on my own. My wife, this is my wife of 20 years now. She's incredible. She's been the most loyal and supportive, and the greatest cheerleader, because it was never a thing where it was like, let's just go find something stable. It was always, this was our dream. It's not maybe panning out the way that we expected it to, but let's pivot. Let's make the pivots here and there, but let's not lose sight of what the goal and the dream is. And so that's the kind of support I had in my home, while I was feeling like I was failing her and not giving her the life she wanted, and our children that. And food was always on our mind, though. I always told my wife, if we just had a little bit of extra money, I just want to buy good food. It got to the point where we were, eating our food storage that we had ultimately built up over a few years. And the food storage wasn't great to eat. We were cracking our own wheat and mixing it into everything just to kind of make it a little more substantial. And that wasn't easy on the bellies either. But every once in a while, we'd have groceries show up on our doorstep. And I just remember thinking, whoever this is that's providing groceries for us, this is exactly what we needed. And oftentimes it would have had to have been somebody very intentionally bringing the groceries they did, because it was like a bottle of Cheese Whiz that my daughter would just beg for at the store, but we couldn't afford it. And I think I know who some of these individuals are, but they never revealed who they were. They would just leave these things that they knew would be meaningful for my child, but also for a parent who wanted to give even the simplest thing as a Cheese Whiz, And this was like striking gold for my daughter, who got this. There's some photos we have in some videos we've created around this story, where there's that actual photo with her holding this bottle of Cheese Whiz. And literally, you would have thought she struck gold. So those were some of those beginning days of just, going through the struggle. And then I heard a quote a few months ago, and I wish I could remember who it was tied to. I need to find out so I can give them credit. But it says, you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. And we've taken that into account in so many ways. As we've now found some success in our business, we've used that time of hunger to really, I guess, give us a mission and give us a purpose in the company that we're building now, to ultimately serve that father, that mother, or that child who is going without, and providing a little hope and confidence through the business we're building. And I can get into that here in a bit if you want. But that's kind of the phase of struggle that we went through. We always say it was like 7 years of famine, and now we've had 7 years of plenty. Not that we've struck gold or anything, but there's just been 7 years of things that have started to click and to make sense, and to really, provide not just for ourselves, but for others in our effort to conquer more here at Mountain Ops. Our slogan here at Mountain Ops, our mantra, is all around conquering and conquering more. And we definitely had our mountains to conquer along the way, and we'll have more mountains to conquer. It's just part of life. But there's so much to gain and so much perspective. Definitely new eyes to see a need that I wasn't once aware of. But now that I've been through some things myself, I have eyes to see and a heart to feel a little different, and to see a need uniquely because of that perspective.
And without delving too much into your dark times, because I don't want to talk about the good times, but I want to talk about in terms of like your mindset, and the fact that I'm sure growing up, you had a pretty good childhood in terms of, again, not psychoanalyzing, but you had a pretty decent childhood where you probably never lacked a meal. And I'm sure you never even thought about hunger. Like, hunger was not a thing. When did you realize during that 7 years sort of like black hole of your life that you were like, I didn't know people live like this. Like, did it creep up on you, or was there some like an eye opening experience? You're like, oh my god, we're hungry.
Yeah. It happened once the savings was all gone and those things, and honestly, when we started diving into our food storage, and then when we started getting groceries, and to see the difference of like, wow, this didn't used to be a thing where these groceries now mean so much for us,
Yeah.
or just this little bit of food storage means so much to us. And then it was just everything. Thanksgivings were incredible, where it was like, I don't have to worry about food today. But one Thanksgiving was kind of a nightmare. We were about ready to go up to my in-laws home. We got a knock on the door, and it was a lady there serving us paperwork. She was on her way to her Thanksgiving dinner, but she was serving us paperwork. That was when our home would be up for auction in the coming
Wow.
days, and I couldn't believe it. And I stared at her, and I just said, "Today, like
Wow.
really?" And she said, I'm so sorry. This was bad timing." And so there was just this weighted down feeling. But yeah, I grew up in a home. My father provided very, very well, and I never thought about it. But once we started being in that situation, we were never starving, but we were hungry. It was like, okay, we've got little to go on. And my ego was in the way, to be honest. When you
Yeah.
start a business and 3 months later you're shutting it down, there's nothing more demoralizing, and it's just my confidence was lacking, and I didn't want neighbors and friends and even family to really know that we were going through this. So I just thought, okay, we're gonna grit this out. We'll make it work. We'll find a way. And I didn't want to talk about it a lot. But what I came to find was that through this and some of the food assistance that we received, I found that there was a statistic right in our area of our community, and it's a community with a lot of self-reliant people, and they've done well. But right in our community, it was 1 in 4 kids in Davis County School District where we live were going home on the weekends without enough food in their
Wow.
pantries,
Wow.
and that comes by various ways. Sometimes these families are just in that cycle for a very long time, and sometimes they found themselves in a situation like we did, where it's a temporary thing. We're going to make it through. We're going to see brighter days ahead. But right now, we've found ourselves in a difficult situation, and there's plenty of people that go through that. My story is very relevant to
Mm.
so many people, especially people that have gone out and tried their wings and tried to get their own business started. A failure is such an incredible part of the process to find success, and so it gives you so much perspective, so much empathy along the way. But you've got to fail in certain regards, and you've got to test, learn, and apply along the way. And that's kind of what we did. But yeah, there was those moments where it's like, okay, we're not the only ones here, and because we're not the only ones, and we've gained this new perspective, what do we need to do about that? I feel like I've got a stewardship now because of the perspective that I've gained, that I'm responsible for, and that's kind of what we've found in life. So
And Trevor, one thing I've noticed from speaking to serial entrepreneurs over the last 3 years, man, you guys are a glutton for punishment. Because I'm sure, Trevor, at one point in your life, you're like, man, let me just get my resume up on Indeed or or ZipRecruiter. Just let me get a job. Let me just work for the man. But you guys fight that. You guys fight that urge, and then you finally come upon Mountain Ops. How did that come across in your journey?
yeah, so it started prior to Mountain Ops. I found a book, and this was in 2010, and I this was after a handful of different struggles and startups and failures. And my dad had just had 3 stents put in his heart, and was suffering with heart disease and couldn't feel his fingers and toes. My both grandparents, my one grandfather died of a heart attack, the other of a stroke. So we have a history of heart disease in my family. And I read a book called No More Heart Disease by a Dr. Luis Ignarro, who won the Nobel Prize in 1998 for his discovery of nitric oxide as a signaling molecule in the cardiovascular system. And through that book, I was reading how these different ingredients could help produce nitric oxide in your body and dilate the blood vessels and arteries, increasing blood flow. And I just thought, hey, this sounds like something that could benefit my dad. He was put on an arginine pill by his cardiologist, and he was told in 5 years after these stents were put in, you'll have open heart surgery.
Hmm.
And I was looking through this book and seeing all these ingredients, and I've always had a kind of a fascination and a desire, just an athletic ability and that type of thing. And so I loved fitness and nutrition. And I found a chemist friend that I went to, and I took him the book, and I just said, hey, I'm reading this book. Here's the ingredients this doctor saying you should have for heart disease. Could you help me whip up a concoction that I can give to my dad? We did that. and put my dad on the prototype. And within 3 days, he started to feel the tingling sensation in his fingers and toes come back. And so I was like, okay, I'm onto something. And being a mission driven individual, now this was not transactional for me. This was like purposeful, and I could sink my teeth into it. And it wouldn't only affect people that I didn't know. I was going to start with my dad, which was incredible for me. But I had zero money in the bank, like literally nothing there. And so I went to my two older brothers and I just said, hey, I found this product that I've put together with this chemist, and I think we could be an online sensation with this thing. And they gave me enough money to buy about 350 bottles of this product. And then I built a website. I learned how to do that. I designed the labels. I did everything to get this business off the ground, and I put a website up, and within about 3 days, the first order came through the site. And it was a chiropractor that bought, and I didn't know why he was buying it. He bought about 12 bottles. So I was pretty excited. It wasn't just one bottle, it was 12. And I remember calling that doctor the next day, and without acting excited for that first order, acting like it happened all the time,
Sure.
I just said, hey, I'm just calling to see how things are going and what you're buying the product for. And he said, well, I'm buying it for my patients who have blood pressure issues and neuropathy issues. And neuropathy was what my father was suffering from. And I said, great. Do you mind if I send you a few extra free bottles and in return, would you share this with your community of chiropractors? And he was willing to do that. And so then I went and knocked on a bunch of doors here in Utah of chiropractors and just said, hey, I've got 2 or 3 bottles. Could you use this on your patients? If you like it, send it out to your network of chiropractors. And I just began to build that way. And it was awesome for me because I was doing something that, now was affecting my family, and I was starting to build up a little bit of a base of business. But I believed in it, and that was super important for me, to just believe in the product and what I was able to do for people. And then about 5 years into that process, I had developed around 7 products selling through chiropractors, and I needed some help on the design work of that business. We were redoing the site and needed some help there with branding and such. And I was put in contact with a couple individuals, 3 individuals actually, that owned a business, a marketing firm. And they were doing most of their design work and marketing for the outdoor industry. And Harberton Brothers and Joe Pilcher, these were these guys that I ended up partnering with. And I asked them, as I met with them the first time, and they were telling me everything they were doing in the outdoor industry, is there a place for supplements in outdoors? And it was more core like hunting. And they said, yes, actually, there's this big hunter athlete movement right now. The hunting industry is about 7 to 10 years behind mainstream. And right now there's a big movement. And if these products work, then we can do something with it. And so gave them some products to try. They loved it. And within a few months, Mountain OPS was born. And the OPS standing for Outdoor Performance Supplements. And we took the 7 products that I had, and we've kept that business to the chiropractors going. It's in its 13th year right now. And we've turned it over to somebody to run for us. But now we had this new brand that came out, and the brand, the logo, the message, and everything resonated so well with this hunting community that it just took off. And we had brands like Under Armour and Yeti and Sitka partnering with us on giveaways and promotions, because there was nobody like us that was offering this consumable product in the way that we were, with the effect that these products had for long-lasting nitric oxide. And I need to say, my dad, he's never had to have that open heart surgery. It's the products that he's been on. The cardiologist told him, just keep doing what you're doing. But our products they produce a nitric oxide and that blood flow and circulation that is super powerful and in the lives of everyday individuals. But if you're out on a mountain and you're hiking all day, or you're packing out an animal, or you're packing in camp and you're doing all these things, like, you need something to last long. And that's how I built the products. And so it resonated so well with these outdoor enthusiasts, but also these pinnacle, like just tip of the spear hunters who were going into the backcountry and needed that extra boost of energy and cardiovascular endurance. And it just started to resonate. But I wasn't a hunter at the time. I spent my time skiing and mountain biking and boating and that type of thing growing up. But now there was this opportunity that was unique to me, because these guys were going out on the mountain to provide food for their family. And I now saw this opportunity of like, okay, I've been struggling with providing just the basic necessities. We've had a business that's been growing, and we've slowly and surely like started to build back up and to be able to cover our needs. But food, again, was still always on the mind. And so I now found this opportunity, and I dove head first in. At first, I was I was just fueling this passion of the outdoor enthusiast. But then I thought, if I want to do more than just fuel it, I want to actually experience what this fuel does for the passion. And in order to experience that, I've got to dive headfirst in, and my family has done it with me. I'm the type of individual that I like to bring my wife and kids along for the journey wherever I go. And so we've learned this community together. And so I started bringing home food from the mountain, and we were
Hmm.
harvesting animals that my family was now using to provide protein in our home. And that was incredible for me. But what I was also kind of these light bulb moments where I was providing nutritional products. I now found a way to provide additional food, yet at the same time, there's still that 1 in 4
Yeah.
children, that go home, and they could never even fathom supplementing for their nutrition. And so we had a responsibility to do something about that. And I've always, my wife, when we were going through the struggles, I told my wife, and I would build out these presentations, I wanted to build a business where we could feed hungry families and children. And that was, 13 years ago. And so now things were starting to click, and I was like, what if we just take a few of the resources? We're a faith-based family, a faith-based organization. Our number one core value at Mountain Ops is to recognize God, because through all these struggles, like, I could not have done it without the faith, without the strength of my faith, and the faith of those individuals that have rallied around this mission. And during those struggles, we always look to the Bible stories and miracles of Jesus Christ. And one of them that we look to all the time that applied to food was when he took a few loaves and a few fishes and he multiplied them for the masses.
Mhm.
And my wife and I made a commitment to each other that as soon as we had a few loaves and a few fishes, not when the boat came in full, but as soon as there was just a few resources to work with, we were going to use those resources to multiply them for the masses.
Hmm.
And we started to see these light bulb moments where it's like, okay, here it is. Every order that comes through the website at mountainops.com, we donate a meal to a child in need. And so now here's our opportunity to take a few of the resources and start to multiply them. And what that's done for a community of Mountain Ops customers, and even our headquarters, our team here at the headquarters, it's given us so much purpose to go after. And we're right around the 4.3 million meal mark.
Wow.
And this year we will hit our 5 millionth meal, and those come, every order. We donate the meal. And so I was just telling you, I'll be in South Carolina next week for a big event. We'll with about 300 people there, we'll pack 60,000 meals in about an hour and a half. And
Hmm.
we hold these events every year, about 5 to 6 events that are big events like that. And we pack the meals ourselves, and then we take them out to the school districts that we're working with. And like the one here that my kids grew up in, and you were helping the 1 in 4. In some areas, it's 3 and 4. It's
Hmm.
just incredible, and it depends on the area you're in. But there's just a major need, especially right now with the economy the way it is, and job loss. And when COVID hit, and the job loss that existed, we not only gave 1 meal per order, we actually, in many months, we were giving 10 to 20 meals per order, just so that we could help where there was a need. And we feel that responsibility with the resources, those loaves and fishes that we've been given. It's now our opportunity to use that perspective to do good,
Hmm.
to serve that person that I once was.
That's awesome. And if you don't mind, step back a few steps here to the when you started the supplement business, the one you were catering to chiropractors and then Mountain Ops.
Yeah.
Were you familiar with some of your entrepreneurial ventures with D2C, like selling direct to the consumer?
No.
Did you know how that worked?
No, I wish at the time. That's why I said I thought we'd be this online sensation just because we had an awesome product. And then I put it up on the website, and I was like, okay, if you build it, it doesn't mean they're going to come. Like,
Right.
it just doesn't happen, especially like in certain realms. Supplements is a very competitive, very
Yeah.
saturated, very fragmented, and there's no loyalty in supplements. You see people on social media posting a new code for a new company every other week, and so no, it was difficult. In fact, once I could build up enough to where I could spend some money on advertising, I put $1,000 towards one keyword, and that's what that got me for SEO. And I was just like, how in the world? This is going to take a year and a half to get onto the
Yeah.
first page. I don't have a year and a half, but I didn't have marketing dollars to spend, because I was just using what I could make of the profits of the business, and the profits didn't come for a long time. And so, no, I actually, at that time, about 6 months after starting that business, I hired my first employee. He's become my partner, Nick Hanks. He's our COO at Mountain Ops. He came from Goldman Sachs and just was not enjoying the lifestyle from, the work-life balance. And I talked him into coming over for a $10 an hour or a commission, the better of the two. And he did it because he understood what I was going after, understood the mission, and it's worked out really well for both of us. But he gave me a little bit of extra time to focus on some things, and I found a school, Full Sail University out of Florida, that offered an internet marketing degree program. And so I
While
actually
you're
ended
building
up
the company, you're going to school
while
for
I
it.
was building the company, we were struggling. We just had our third child now at the time. I was called into an ecclesiastical position in my church over a
Oh my
congregation of 500
jeez.
people. I didn't see my wife it was a 25-month accelerated schooling program. We saw each other on Saturday and Sunday nights, and it was difficult, but we put in the time. We made it happen. And then when I partnered with this marketing group with the Harbertsons and the Pilchers, it was game changer. I mean, these guys, they understood how to market. And so we went from hoping to be an online sensation to then being really a wholesale distribution business through doctors' offices. And then from there, once Mountain Ops started, we were a digitally native brand where it was all built off of social media, direct response, all these D2C performance marketing campaigns. And it worked, and it was awesome. But the biggest thing with Mountain Ops was we spent time building a community. And where we're different and where we found loyalty, where most of the industry is very fragmented and not loyal, we've broken down our walls. We tell this story. We let people into our lives. And so there's a connection. One of our slogans is to connect and conquer. We do Operation Conquer Hunger, conquer more, conquer your unknown. But a connection with individuals is one of the most important things. And our brand has been able to connect and help people conquer. And then through that, establish these transformations in lives that are not just physical. Sometimes they're spiritual, physical, mental, emotional. And that's our Conquer More program. It covers those four realms, and we really get into the lives of these individuals. And but it's all been done online. We've got a portion of our business now, a healthy portion, that's going through wholesale distribution, and you find us in some big retailers throughout the country, but we have been that online sensation with Mountain Ops.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, you got the chronological order all wrong, Trevor. You should try the schooling first and then the thing. It all worked out in the end for you. And one
sometimes
thing
you have to just do it all at once, right?
That's true. Yeah, and you literally did. One word I want to pick out from you just talked about was the word community, and this is something I've been writing and talking about for the past year or so. Is that everyone wants an audience, but I say no. You don't want an audience. You want a community first, because an audience is sort of this monolith without any kind of features, or it's just like this. It's like a bland thing. Audience means nothing. They come and go,
Yeah.
but community is what sticks with you. The example I use is Planet Fitness versus Peloton. Both those companies may be pretty similar in terms of how much money they make, but you never hear anyone talk about, hey, I went to Planet Fitness today, or I posted a picture in Planet Fitness. But the Peloton people, they will come back and they will buy the merchandise. They will tell their friends. They will post their times that day. And so they built that community. So they didn't have to have 200 million people buying their bikes. They just needed a small core of people that were really invested in the product and would basically do the work for them. When did you realize the importance of community first when it came to building Mountain Ops?
Honestly, it was, and to the credit of my partners, like, it was right out the gates, because we didn't have big budgets to work with to go out and to build an audience and then convert them to a community. So we really had to, first and foremost, it was boots on the ground, it was grassroots, it was showing up at events, giving product away, seeding it, being in the right places, and building that community from the get-go. But part of that was, we formed a mission statement and a set of core values. The core values, even before Mountain Ops, they were a set of core values that my brothers and I put together at a previous business. But they were really the core values of our childhood. And you talked about that earlier. We did grow up in an amazing home with amazing parents, and so these core values of trust and interdependence and service and the golden rule and opportunity, desire, joy, like, these are our core values. And we were determined to let people see us in action with these core values and really break down those barriers so that trust could be built. People are information rich and time poor. And so they really need to understand right from the get-go whether there's credibility and trust or not, because they have plenty of options. And I feel like, especially in our space with supplements. And so we really had to attract them into something unique from the get-go, and help them feel a part of it. And we sell a ton of shirts and hats, and it's an awesome part of our business, for a supplement business to sell as many shirts and hats as we do.
Hmm.
A lot of people, first and foremost, are like, okay, I love what Mountain Ops looks like. They stand for these awesome core values and beliefs. Their mission is to improve lives. I'm going to test it a little bit. I'm going to buy a shirt or a hat, and then they feel part of the community. Once they're wearing it, it's like this badge of honor. And when you see people now, around, and they're wearing a Mountain Ops hat, I'm wearing a Mountain Ops hat, there's just this connection. We started to build that at events, and then we obviously took it online, and we really connected, and just broke down, here's who we are, here's what we're about. And we took people on experiences, and we gave them opportunities to win these experiences, whether they were hunts or different excursions, or bringing them out to our office. And we just understood that was the way we needed to connect, because we didn't have a lot of money to be advertising a ton. So most of it was done very organically to begin with, which, if you can do it that way, it almost requires you to connect with people in a much more sincere and unique way, because you need them to come in and understand who you are, what you're about, and to buy into that, to the heart and soul of the business. And then there was growth. A lot of our ambassadors that are big names out there in the industry, they've been with us for 7 or 8 years, the existence of Mountain Ops. And it's because from the get-go, we just understood we had to connect with them in a unique way. We couldn't just give them product and a check. It had to be that they needed to understand the actual soul of Mountain Ops and what we were truly, out there to accomplish. And that is to improve the lives of individuals and families in everything that we do. So yeah, community was at the forefront from the absolute beginnings of how we created this.
And I'm just curious, when was the first time, or maybe the most random time, that you saw someone wearing Mountain Ops merch? Whether it was the hat or T-shirt. Was there a moment that you remember, like, holy cow, people are actually wearing this stuff, or was it
Yeah.
like, or was there a weird location that you noticed someone wearing one of your stuff?
It was there in an airport. I think it was in Florida, and it was interesting. And I was almost like too excited, and my family was like, "Look at that!" And then we were trying to decide, should I go talk to him? Should I do that? And then I'd get pictures from family members as well, and they'd be traveling somewhere, and they're like, "You wouldn't believe it! We just saw somebody," and they'd always sneak photos of whoever it was and send them our way. I remember at our first expo that we ever did, nobody knew at that time. It was like 5 months after we started, and we went to this huge hunt expo where there was 50,000 people here in Salt Lake City. Nobody, we had this little booth, and we were giving away a truck that cost us like $5,000, but we souped it all up and everything. It was a truck for $1. Every buck you spent, you were entered into to win this truck. And people were like, who is Mountain Ops? What is this? Like, the brand looks cool, the logo looks awesome. And we had a few shirts to sell. And if they, just wanted to buy it and take it, it was $10. But if they would buy it and put it on right then, it was $5. And you wouldn't believe, like, this expo hall was swarming with Mountain Ops, and everyone was like, hey, everyone's wearing Mountain Ops. Everyone's carrying around that orange bag. And just immediately it started like wildfire, and that community started to build, and everyone loved wearing it. And it's a cool brand. It doesn't say hunting nutrition. It doesn't say outdoor supplement. It's Mountain Ops. What is that? Like, what does that mean? Well, it means, the mountain is what we all face every day. How are we going to conquer the mountain? How are we going to face it? And the ops, it's the outdoor performance supplements. We are in the outdoor performance arena, and it's got to deal with performance. And that's we've put guardrails in place so that we don't get too carried away with products, and because there's so much we can do. It doesn't mean we should do it.
Yeah.
And we've got some incredible products, and the lineup of apparel even has just brought people into the community in a very unique way. So
that's awesome. That's great. And you mentioned earlier about the crowded supplement space, and I'm old enough to remember that when you wanted supplements, you had to go to your GNC and your local strip mall, and it was always usually like surrounded by stores that were probably closed, 2 months later. So it's always like the dodgiest part. And now, obviously, because of the internet, this explosion of, again, the D2C aspect of supplements. How crazy crowded is it? Because can you give me some sort of context in terms of the competition, whether it's just in your space or supplements in general?
Oh, man. It feels like there's a new company popping up every day, and the struggle that most of them are facing is that connection. And they're all
Mm.
trying to go after the audience. And I when you said that, it just resonated so much with me. Um, and to be honest, there's many different ways, obviously, to make it in the supplement world. But I feel like if you're going to make it, you need to find out how unique you are. Where is there an audience that you can authentically speak to? Because so many just come in and they say, "Oh, I can create a product and I can put it out there," and it doesn't work. We've seen even in the outdoor performance in the hunting space, every year at these hunt expos that we go to, you see five new ones, but the next year you usually don't see the same ones again. They're trying to get it quick and they're not willing to put in the time. And that's one thing I've found, that time has become my greatest asset.
Mhm.
I'm a simple man. I don't have all the skill sets in the world to make things succeed. I've had my own failures. What I found that my strength is that I am an arranger. I bring things together. I bring people together, and that interdependent core value of ours has been critical to me, because I've brought the right people into the team that have the skill sets that kind of just balance everyone out. And that's my strength. But it took time, and it took failure, and it took sacrifice and grit. And I see so many supplements. I'm connected really well with the manufacturers here in Utah. Utah's a hotbed for
Oh
supplements,
yeah.
and
And cosmetics too,
there's
right? You guys
and
love making,
cosmetics.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's we want to look good and feel healthy.
Right.
But it's yeah, I don't understand sometimes why some of these brands come out. I get it, people want to have their thing, but most of them approach it in a very, I guess, surface level way.
Mm.
And they're looking for the transaction, and that might happen for a period of time where the transactions might come in. But if you want to grow with stability and longevity, you've got to be authentic, and you've got to find a core audience that you resonate with, that resonates with you. I try not to look too much out at our competitors. I like to use them as a gauge at times, but we're really focused in on what are we doing and how are we resonating with our consumer, and what do we need to continue to do to keep them loyal to us and us loyal to them. And truthfully, it's us being loyal to them. What do they need from us? How do we serve them most effectively? And ultimately, what's the transformation that they're going through in their life that we can be a part of? And if you can give them an experience that they can attach themselves to with you, that's powerful. But taking it a step further, if you can help somebody through a transformation in their life, they become just this brand ambassador, this brand disciple. They're just with you for life because you've gone through something with them. And so we focus actually here at Mountain Ops on doing that ourselves. We have our own internal Conquer More challenge, where it's like we can't give what you don't have. So let's go through our own transformations as well, so that we can understand the process and resonate well with them. But I know that kind of goes outside of the question, but
Yeah.
it's just so many brands and so many supplements that are popping up left and right, and we just do it in a unique way to connect with our core audience. And I'm happy for those that dive into it and succeed. And I do feel like there's plenty of opportunity for. I like to be more of the abundance mindset,
Yeah.
and not every product is fit for every individual. So it's good that there's competition, and it's good that there's products that resonate, better for some people than others, because we won't with everyone. We've got our way of doing things, and we've got our way of creating supplements, and they appeal to a lot of people, but they might not be to somebody else's liking. So that's okay. There's opportunity for others.
Cool. And I know you've probably heard the phrase, it's not personal, it's business. But a core tenet of Mountain Ops and of yourself is your faith. How do you
Yeah.
separate the two? Because you're a business. So at the end of the day, you sometimes have to fire someone or let someone go. And I'm pretty sure I was raised
Yeah.
Catholic, but I don't remember how Jesus handled firing apostles. So how do you how do you marry those two kind of concepts together, your faith and the business?
Yeah. I've really found it hard, and I actually don't really compartmentalize my life. I am who I am. I once was told on my social media by somebody, like, "Hey, your page is going to grow a lot faster if you stop posting about being a father, about being a faith-based individual, and if you just post hunting and fitness and stuff, it's going to grow." I didn't really care like that. I didn't want to be something that wasn't me, and so part of what I love about hunting is how I am as a father while I hunt. Part of what I love about hunting or fitness is how that makes me feel on a spiritual level, and the connection I have with God because I'm taking care of the body he gave me. And now it's some people look at faith and then others look at religion and they tie those together. I'm a religious person, but I'm not promoting my religion through our business. I'm saying, hey, I recognize there's a higher power, and for me that's God. And I revere, honor, respect the beliefs of other individuals. We're a diverse group, even here at Mountain Ops. We don't all have the same beliefs. And I love and celebrate the diversity of beliefs that other individuals have, whether they call it God or the universe sort of higher, or energy or whatever it is. Like, I believe that it exists. I believe, for me, my God exists. And so because I've gone through some things in life where he's helped me carry through and helped carry that burden, I I won't go about it in a way that won't, recognize him, because I know it's not me where the strength comes from. And so, people will ask, well, how do you apply that in the business?
Hmm.
And I look at recognizing God, and our description of that is we believe in recognizing God even in the workplace and acknowledge his hand in all things. Now, one of the ways to do that is I believe that all things that are good come from God. So recognizing the good within individuals, recognizing their strengths, finding out what they are and bringing them to light, awakening that divine within them. To me, that's an easy way, without getting religious, to say, this is a good way to recognize God. Let's find the strengths in others and let's bring them to the forefront. Let's celebrate them and then let's utilize them. Let's put them into use so they can feel like they're contributing with the gifts they have. And so you recognize God that way. We do. We start every week as a team with a prayer. And sometimes those prayers are different. Sometimes it sounds like an LDS prayer. Sometimes it's a Catholic prayer. Sometimes, it doesn't matter. We just recognize a God and we ask for strength for that week in the things that we're trying to accomplish. And most importantly, to help us fulfill our responsibility and the mission we've set out to improve lives of individuals and families. But and so really it comes down to not necessarily talking about it, but like, let's just go out and let's live it. Let's be kind to people. The golden rule. How would you want to be treated? I feel like that's a great way to recognize God. Treat others with love, respect, kindness, and it'll come back to you. And then service, we're looking out for God's children, those that are in need, those vulnerable children and families that are suffering through something that we're aware of, that we've experienced. And we believe we've been given those experiences to gain greater perspective in life. And I believe that perspective comes from God. And I feel like it's given me an ability to contribute in life, in the business, to my home, to my family, my community, in a much more powerful and unique way than I just said, oh yeah, I went through these experiences and it's just part of life. Well, I believe there's a higher purpose, and I believe there's an internal perspective that if I utilize and put to use, then I can impact more and more lives than if I just kind of thought that it was me. It was, I'm just going through this as a human being. I believe there's a great purpose to this life, and part of that is through connection. I to connect and conquer, whether that's with people, with God, with a business, that connection in life. And we've been going through some times this here in this world over the last few years where connection's been lost in many ways, and it's been more through social media, and we were confined to our homes and this and that, so people lost connection, and it was hard. And so Mountain Ops, I felt like we had a responsibility, especially during those tough times, to maintain some type of connection with individuals to help them through that. We had that responsibility, and I feel like we did a pretty good job of keeping our community and our team connected in a meaningful way.
And lastly, Trevor, I think we started the conversation by talking about it. It's been sort of a through line during it, is the fact how much importance you put on fatherhood. And so I'm going to ask you the question that women have been asked for 40 years in business. How do you balance motherhood and being a CEO? Well, I'm going to ask you this. How do you balance being a CEO and being a father? Because sometimes you're traveling, you're at shows, you talked about going to school while you're building a business. So how do you connect those two, being able to be a good father and being able to be a good businessman?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's never going to be like an exact perfect balance in life. I don't feel, I
Mm.
feel like we talk about work-life balance. I don't think it's ever going to be that all these realms of life are balanced, and I'm giving each of them the right attention. But I feel like being intentional with the time that we do have is the most important. I hear people complaining we don't have time all the time. If I just had a little more time,
Mm.
I believe, even tying it back to recognizing God in my faith, like, I believe the God that gives us the time we have understands the time we need. And I think what it comes down to is we don't have enough energy because we're not prioritizing the right way. And so if we can prioritize the time that we do have, and I do need to spend time on the business, and I do need to spend time as a father, as a husband, I do need to spend time in my community and with my church that I can commit time to. It's really prioritizing that time and removing distractions that aren't helping you with that energy and time. I feel like we've got plenty of time. Time slips through the cracks so quickly, and it feels like it's speeding up. And it's hard. I've got a daughter that's will be graduating high school this year, and I can hardly believe it. I've got 4 children, one in 2 at high school, one in junior high, and one in elementary school. And they're the joy of my life. It's been incredible to watch them through the process of life and them growing up. And my wife and I being so young, we kind of felt like we were all raising each other together. But I do feel like it just comes down to being intentional with our priorities. And even at Mountain Ops, family is one of our core values. It used to be, we used to call it community. We've actually changed it to family. And we believe that it's the fundamental unit of community, of society. And so we're very intentional about including family in our workplace. And my kids will come and they'll take little summer jobs with us. Or, when I go on, a lot of times my business meetings are in the mountains. I take my kids with me on those. And I invite those that I'm going with to take their kids as well. And that can't always happen. I've got business trips I've got to go on and this and that. And they've got their things that they're devoted to as well. But just being intentional about including them as much as possible. And within our business, we've tried to make it a family friendly environment to where anything that I'm involved in, my kids would be proud of. Like that's the biggest thing.
Trevor, it's funny you talk about intentional because I've been on my high horse about this busy culture that everyone is always too busy. And I always say bullshit. It's really, we do what we want to do. So if something is important for us to do, we will be intentional enough to do so. I think it's become this sort of, I call it our default setting. When someone goes and asks someone a question, hey, can you do this one thing? Oh, I'm busy. It's like, you don't even think. you don't even give it any thought. You're just like, oh yeah, no, I'm busy. And then of course, as society, we've all taken that as a social cue to be like, oh, okay, I can't ask this person this thing because they've got this busy mantle. So I think you've kind of found sort of the secret sauce to it, to borrow a tired business term, is if you're intentional about something, you're never too busy because you will find time to do that thing that's important to your business life and to your personal life.
100%. And especially if those kids know that they're loved and they're being taken care of. Never let a problem become more important than a child to be loved or a person to be loved. And no amount of success I have will compensate for failure in my home. And so I've got to be intentional with that time. They've got to know I'm there. They've got to know how much they mean to me, because they are, when all is said and done. One of my favorite books is How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. Like, I will measure my life by the investments that I've made in relationships, the most important being within the walls of my own home.
Awesome. His name is Trevor Farnes, the CEO and co-founder of Mountain Ops. Trevor, it's been a great conversation. Thanks for opening up and letting us know what's going on. I'm sure you haven't been on Joe Rogan yet, have you?
No, that would be the
you
day.
sound like the perfect Joe Rogan guest. So I'm sure put it out into the universe, because I feel like not worthy enough to hear your story, because it's such a great Joe Rogan type story. But
you're awesome.
Oh, thanks. To find out more about Trevor, his company, and Operation Conquer Hunger, go to MTNOPS.com. That's mountainops.com, MTNOPS.com. Thanks again, Trevor.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Trev. And that's it for another episode of the Forbes Books Podcast. If you enjoy the show, make sure you take a second to subscribe so you automatically get new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I'd love if you left us a review so more amazing entrepreneurs like yourself can discover the show. And please don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.